was canceled in 2008 due to the financial crisis and the recession, so it never came to be. But still, though, we have some of his work here. The Constellation. Not quite as tall, just as beautiful, I would say. Now, just behind it here, I think this building, River Point Tower, kind of looks like a giant Hot Pocket. Wouldn't you say? Or like one of those apple pies from McDonald's? Now, the reason for that parabolic arch there at the bottom is actually because underneath, you can see those portholes. That is where the Amtrak and Metro trains are running. They run right through this way heading south, so you can't build the base of your building there. Now, if we follow those portholes to this upside-down pencil building, on the right-hand side, that is where the Amtrak and Metro trains are running. Can't build the base of your structure there, you just have glass around the outside. On the left-hand side here, well, what is the reason for that? Good question. So, contemporary buildings being built out in this area have to abide by an ordinance requiring the base of the structure be pulled back 30 feet from the river. That has to be reserved for public walking space. And so because of that, you cannot build the base of your structure on this side either. That means that the base of 150 North Riverside, this building to our right, only encompasses about 20% of the total lot space, and that is dug down about 170 feet into the bedrock down below. Gotta make sure you have a nice solid foundation. Now, with such an interesting shape here, you run into this issue with something called wind sway. Did you know that skyscrapers all around the world are meant to sway very slightly in the wind, a couple of inches in each direction? But you do not want them to sway too much, otherwise the people towards the top of the building will get motion sickness. So what do you do about that? Well, there is a few ways to combat that issue of wind sway. One of them, in the way that 150 North Riverside deals with this issue. At the very top, on the roof, there are 12 concrete containers filled with about 160,000 gallons of water. They are called inertial slosh dampers. The reason being, the wind hits the side of the building, the water inside those tanks sloshes around in the opposite direction, finds its center of gravity, helps to stabilize the building so it does not sway too much. That is one out of a few... Yes, that is one out of a few ways that we deal with wind sway with our structures here in Chicago. Now, over here to the left-hand side, this is the Bank of America building. You can see how they have dealt with that 30 feet back ordinance, with those steel tripod beams vaulting out that third floor. They didn't want this space in front to go to waste, so they vaulted it up and kept on building upwards. Now, I love both of these buildings. It's a great example of how limitation breeds innovation. If it was not for that 30 feet back ordinance, these would just be regular old skyscrapers. But because of the limitations in the way, they have to find creative solutions for the problems at hand. I will also say, Bank of America building. If you are a Bank of America member, congratulations. You helped pay for that $800 million building. Good work. Money put to good use. All right, now this section here, I like to call this the time machine, and I call it that because all these buildings we're going to be talking about next were built in chronological order. We're going to start over here on the right-hand side. Office space, 2 North Riverside Plaza, Art Deco style, once again, completed in 1929. Now, what else happened in 1929? The stock market crash, plunging us into the Great Depression. Things weren't going so well. Followed soon after in the 1940s by World War II. Needless to say, we were not too concerned with creating new structures, new office space during that time, so we went through a little bit of an architectural drought. That was until the 50s and 60s. There was a German-American architect pioneered this new movement. He's a German-American architect. He pioneered, right over here to the right-hand side, a great example of it. Black box modernism. That's it. Yeah, thank you. Yes, I think it deserves it. It probably doesn't get enough cheers in its lifetime. Yes, black box modernism. Plain, simple, functional, not much to look at. But that was the whole idea behind this structure here. Gone was the grandiosity of that Art Deco style. We just wanted boring black boxes to work out of and go home. Now, you ready for this? We're going to shake things up. Say goodbye to boring black box buildings. And say hello to the 1970s when we introduced boring white box buildings. Yes. Like I said, I think this one needs its cheers as well. It probably doesn't get enough attention, and it deserves it. Now, that building, that white building coming up, it's called International Style. Makes it sound very intriguing. Well, we call it International Style because you can take that style of architecture, place it anywhere in the world, it blends right in. All right. Now, I'm going to take a quick break from our time machine just to point out right underneath here, you can actually see that Metro train. They run right underneath all these structures heading south. You can actually see them there, that's why I like to point them out. But now we're going to move on to the 80s. Things are getting